hot summers and the plays of Shakespeare. With a combination of love and comedy. What a combination! Hello and welcome to my next class. Today I am here with the Shakespeare plays, that is his early comedies. Alright, so we'll go through his early comedies in a bit detail so that you can know about how he started writing his plays. In my last class, I did Shakespeare's poetry. Today, we'll come up with a very important topic, that is Shakespeare plays. The comedy of errors, love's labors lost, and the two gentlemen of Verona. These are very interesting. Leaving love's labors lost, the comedy of errors, and the two gentlemen of Verona is being borrowed by the foreign sources, so we'll go through them in detail. But before that, please don't forget to subscribe my channel and click on the bell icon so that you can be notified on my new videos. And please share if you like these videos. So without wasting time, let's move on. So here we start with the comedy of errors. There was a ban between the travel of the two rival cities, Syracuse and Ephesus. And there was a crime that if anyone breaks this ban, whoever violated this ban, that person has to give a ransom of 1,000 marks or a death penalty if he was unable to give the ransom of 1,000 marks. There comes a merchant of Syracuse and named Iagon. He is condemned to death in Ephesus because he violated the ban, and then to Duke Solinus of Ephesus. He tells his story, Iagon tells his story, and Duke Solinus is so moved by the story of Iagon that he gives him a daytime so that he can collect 1,000 marks for himself and save his life. Now, behind his story, there was a problem that he lost his wife and a twin son, and he was in search of his wife and a twin son who were lost 25 years ago in a shipwreck. So they got a daytime and they were in search of his wife and his son. By chance, his son and his wife was also traveling to Ephesus, and during this story there is a confusion because there are both are twins, so everyone gets confused with their faces and several things happen. In the last, all four meet and problem is resolved, and then Iagon is freed from Duke Solinus, and this is comedy of error. This play is being borrowed from the foreign sources. See, from that point of view, if you see, then you should remember about the cities, rival cities, who was the merchant, Duke Solinus. So these, because now as they have changed the syllabus and they can ask you about the story, or they will give you a passage sort and will ask, so we should know about the story. So this is all about comedy of errors, though it is not that important, but yes, sometimes not important things are also important. So always I tell my students to go through each and everything so that at least in a form of a story you can remember these plays. And after all, Shakespeare, passionate writer, he is believed to have written many plays, and we are going to learn each and every play he has written. But this was his early plays, and they were not that popular, and because he also borrowed from the foreign sources, but these are important. So let's move on. Love's Labours Lost. There was a King Ferdinand, King of Navarre, his friends Byron, Domain, and Longville. Right? These are the characters. Please remember them. Why? Because character wise also it is asked. Now, when we talk about the princess, there travels a princess of France along with her three ladies, Rosalind, Maria, and Catherine. Costard here represents as a clown. So here in the play of Love's Labours Lost, these were the characters at glance. Now let's know the story. Ferdinand, the king of Navarre, and his friends take a vow to devote their 3 years in pursuing knowledge. See, I have given each and every point why, so that you can learn it properly, so that you can understand it properly. Okay, now Ferdinand and his friends they take an oath that they are going to devote their 3 years in pursuing knowledge. And why they took an oath? So that nobody can distract them. But there, moving on with the story, there arrives the Princess of France with her three ladies. The Princess of France has arrived to visit the king, but because of his vow, he cannot receive them because he took an oath, so he was unable to receive them. Now here we see that all of them will fall for each other, and Byron, a good friend of Ferdinand, will ask Costard, that is a clown, to exchange the letters, but there is a confusion and the letters get exchanged wrongly. So before this, I should tell you the Costard role, that Costard was flirting with an innocent country girl, and he was caught and he was sentenced by Ferdinand, the king. Then only came the Princess of France, and later Costard was being a clown. He was asked to exchange letters, and there also he created a confusion and he exchanged the letters wrongly, where Dumain fall for Catherine, Longville for Maria, Byron for Rosalind, and Ferdinand for Princess of France. Right? Now this whole story takes place, but there comes a news of the death of Prince's fathers, and they had to leave, but they ask all four to take a vow to come to their place if they were serious about them. Okay, now this play is really very important. We should know about Ferdinand, we should know about Byron, we should know about Longville and Dumain. Right? Again, I'm telling you, Dumain fall for Catherine, Longville for Maria, Byron for Rosalind, Ferdinand for Princess. You can jot down somewhere, but this is very important. Okay, now who was the king? They can ask you, or many types of question they can ask. So be prepared with everything. Now moving on with the next play, that is The Two Gentlemen of Verona. When we see The Two Gentlemen of Verona, here the play opens with two friends, Valentine and Proteus, and they're forbidding farewell to each other, an emotional goodbye, as Valentine is moving to Milan. For being a nobleman, he's moving to Milan. Proteus also wanted to join in his adventures, but because he falls in love with Julia, so he decides to be there in Verona. Then comes the father of Proteus, and because father of Proteus was hearing all thrash about Proteus, that his father did not send him to abroad, now how he's going to be a noble man. So listening to after all these things, father of Proteus decides to send him to Milan so that he can be in the company of noblemen. Before he leaves for Milan, he exchanged ring with Julia, and he, told about his feeling, uh, that he was in love with Julia. So they exchanged ring with each other, and as he reaches Milan, he saw Sylvia, a beautiful Sylvia, a daughter of Duke of Milan, and he falls in love with her. Valentine and Sylvia were already in love. When Duke of Milan caught Valentine with a letter and a ladder, he's thrown out of Milan. Valentine and Sylvia were in love, and Sylvia taught, Sylvia treated Valentine as a servant. That was that time's courtly, romance, as Shakespeare expressed. That was the way of courtly romance, that Sylvia treated Valentine as a servant, and was in a form of courtly romance, obviously. And Duke of Milan, he caught Valentine with a love letter and a ladder, where with the help of ladder he was going to the room of Sylvia. So he was thrown out of Milan and asked that he should not be seen in Milan or will be killed. So he moved to some place in forest between Milan and some other place. So he was near Milan. Julia, again moving on to Verona, Julia was in search of Proteus, his beloved, and she dresses like a boy and she goes to Milan, where she's appointed as a grand boy named Sebastian of Proteus. Okay, so a run boy, obviously he'll do everything for Proteus. He is appointed for that, and यहाँ पे Julia का नाम is Sebastian. Please don't forget that Julia, she dressed like a boy and she was named as Sebastian, right? Moving on with the story. Now this is going to an interesting one. He sends Sebastian with a ring to Sylvia because as Proteus falls in love with Sylvia, he sends Sebastian with a ring to Sylvia, where Sylvia refuses and she ran away with a friend of Valentine in search of her love, where Sebastian had a, that okay, at least she refused it. Why? Because she was Julia and she would have not liked, obviously, if Sylvia would have accepted. So Sylvia, as she was already in love with Valentine, he asked his friend that if they can go in search of Valentine. So she runs away with a friend of Valentine in search of her love, where she's kidnapped by the forest outlaws. And these forest outlaws recently made his head as Valentine told them that he has murdered someone, and they were impressed by Valentine and they made his head. Okay, so these forest outlaws who was the head? Valentine. Who kidnapped your Sylvia? The forest outlaws. Now to whom they're taking? To Valentine. That's good. For whom? Sylvia. But when Sylvia reaches there, Proteus arrives there with Sebastian. Obviously, he was with Sebastian, and he asked Sylvia to accept his proposal. When Sylvia denied, he tries to rape Sylvia. Then comes Valentine and he fights with Proteus, but then Sebastian falls and Proteus gets to know about Sebastian, that Sebastian is only Julia, and he once again falls in love with Julia. So Valentine's Proteus, he felt guilty and is sorry for what he has done. Then then the Duke of Milan comes and he gives Valentine his daughter's hand as a gift because he thinks that Valentine is a nice guy. So here we end with this story, The Two Gentlemen by Verona. This is also a borrowed by a foreign source, but is important from the point of length. So you should know about these. The upcoming video that I'm going to upload will be the other plays of Shakespeare or maybe some other poet. So please keep watching my videos and please don't forget to subscribe my channel and please share and keep learning. Thank you.